I'm Michael Santos, founder of Prison Professors, and I'm really glad that you're continuing to work through our courses on preparing for success after prison. I really want you to know that this is like a never-ending journey. If you're incarcerated, you've always got to be thinking about, how am I going to overcome the challenges ahead? Now, in the first portion of this project, I shared with you those principles, but that guided me through 26 years in prison. All of these are really about you thinking and about what you can do. And today we're going to be talking about some of those rather short, self-directed lessons. And I think the best way for me to do it is read the lesson, and then at the end of the lesson, when we have the little activities and questions, quizzes, I'm going to respond to them for you how I would have responded. It's not necessarily the right answer. It's not the only answer, but it is an answer that helped me prepare for success upon release. So because I'm committed to helping as many justice-impacted people prepare for success, I've got to share with you the strategies that worked for me, and then you can decide whether they make sense for you. So let's turn to the lesson first, and then we will come back to me giving you some real practical applications about that. So here we go. Lesson number 17 is about accountability for growth. So the vocabulary word really is accountability. We want to talk about taking responsibility for one's actions, decisions, and their consequences. And what's the lesson content? Well, in the pursuit of growth, accountability plays a crucial role. It requires a person to take ownership of choices, actions, and outcomes. Embracing the concept of accountability allows us to develop self-awareness, learn from our mistakes, and make positive life changes. During my time in prison, I realized the significance of accountability in shaping my future. I acknowledged that the decisions I made and the actions I took had led me to this point. By embracing accountability, I began to see opportunities for growth and transformation. I understood that by taking responsibility for my choices, I could move forward with purpose and create a better life for myself. In Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term, I wrote about the steps I took to persuade universities to admit me, even though I had been a terrible high school student and did not have financial resources. By holding myself accountable, I could create a clear plan that would lead to more opportunities. Start creating your personalized accountability plan to prepare for your success upon release. And to embrace accountability for personal growth, follow these steps. Number one, you've got to reflect on your actions. Take time to reflect on the choices you have made and their consequences. Recognize the importance they have had on your life and the lives of others, because honest self-reflection is the first step toward accountability. You've got to accept responsibility. Acknowledge that you have the power to change your circumstances. Accepting responsibility for your actions empowers you to make different choices and to take positive steps toward personal growth. Learn from mistakes. View mistakes as learning opportunities. When you misstep, analyze what went wrong and identify the lessons you can take from the experience. Use these insights to make wiser decisions in the future. Set clear goals. Establish clear and measurable goals for your personal growth. These goals will serve as a roadmap, guiding your actions and holding you accountable for making progress. Seek support. Surround yourself with people who encourage and support your journey through personal growth. Seek mentors and counselors or fellow students who can provide guidance and hold you accountable to your goals. Now, in each one of these lessons, as you can find in your workbook, we also offer these questions and activities. So I'm encouraging you and challenging you to use these as you deem appropriate, right? When you're in prison, sometimes you don't have access to classrooms. Sometimes you don't have access to teachers. Sometimes you're locked in special housing units. Wherever you are, if you have access to this lesson, you could definitely be working through activities. And I'm going to show you how I did it while I went through 9,500 days in prison. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but I am saying every one of us has the power within to start building a pathway to put us on preparation to make sure we're in harmony with our commitment to preparing for success upon release. So let's go now to these questions and activities, all self-directed. Here's a question. How do you define accountability and its importance in personal growth? That's one question. I'm going to respond to that question. 2, share an experience where embracing accountability helped you overcome a challenge or make positive changes in prison. 3, how does taking responsibility for your actions contribute to personal development? 4, how can accountability help you prepare for a successful life after release? 5, what goals have you set that require accountability during the time you serve? And then the lesson prompts you with some ideas and activities for personal development. You could do this with a partner, okay? You could do this on your own. But the harder you work, the more effective you are going to become. Number 1 activity, reflect on a recent situation where you could have taken more accountability. Number 2, write how you could have approached the situation differently and the potential positive outcomes that could have resulted from taking responsibility. 3, identify one action you will take to hold yourself accountable and foster personal growth moving forward. Now remember, embracing accountability is not about dwelling on past mistakes. It is about taking control of your future. By holding yourself accountable, you can make positive changes, grow as an individual, and lay the foundation for a successful life beyond prison walls. Stay committed to your personal growth journey and embrace the power of accountability. So now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I remember of being in prison. And remember, I started inside of a high security United States penitentiary, or really, I started in special housing units. And when I got to the pen, when I got sentenced, the marshals, took me through the transit across the country, and I eventually got to a United States penitentiary on the East Coast. And I always remember what it felt like when I was there. I remember that, I'd get these messages from other people in prison about how to live inside. And, that common message was forget about the world outside and focus on your time inside. And that's advice if that's what you want, right? You get what you want. You get what you set a plan out for. If you're saying, I'm going to forget about the world outside and I'm just going to focus on my time in prison, well, there's going to be a result that follows that kind of decision. You get what you measure. And this lesson's all about personal accountability. So I remember one analogy, and I was talking about it recently with somebody else, and it was when you're in the pen and the institution or the administration brings tour groups through the prison. They would require us at that time, I don't know what the case is now, but back in the late 1980s, they would require all the people serving time to get locked up in whatever room was close by. And so they just make an announcement, lock up, and we'd go into these rooms and there'd be like windows. And I remember being a young guy in my, mid-20s, early 20s, serving so much time. By then I'd lost everything, just like many people who go through our courses have lost everything. And then you'd see the tours come through, and there'd always be like a lieutenant walking in the front and a lieutenant in the back, and then when an executive from the administration walking with them as the tour group is sitting around. And I felt a lot of times like there was not a common humanity between us. I was like the ape behind a wall, and the tour group are like gawking at you, And I remember that feeling of just wanting to connect, wanting to feel as if I was a human being. And there were a lot of ways that you could respond to that. You could just say, I'm going to just be angry at the system because it's got me incapable of connecting with other people. Or I could create a mechanism to hold myself accountable, and so that I could bring more people into my life. And that became very important to me at the very start of my journey, because I realized if I don't invest in myself, if I don't start preparing for success upon release, I can't really move beyond these 40-foot walls that encapsulate the entire penitentiary. This is it. This is my life. So I'm going to learn to walk like I'm in the pen. I'm going to talk like I'm in the pen, and that I knew would have long-term impact on my life. When I came home, I would not be able to hit success as I define success. For me, it was, I want to be able to walk into any room and nobody will know that I served a day in prison unless I told them. That was a goal for me. That's what I was striving toward. I won't say it was a goal. It was how I defined success, because remember, goals have to be smart, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-bound. Right? So it's not really a goal to say I want to be able to walk into any room and nobody knows that I've been in prison unless I can measure it. But what I could do to say that is I could say, okay, how am I going to advance possibilities for my success upon release? And one of the ways was really developing these comprehensive accountability tools so that I could measure my progress along the way. And remember that I've said, I would never ask you to do something that I didn't only do while I was in prison, but that I'm not still doing today. So if I share my screen with you, I'm going to show you today what I'm doing. So I can go over here to this back section again. I'm going to go to the right page, and this is my profile on our new site called Prison Professors Talent, which anybody can be a part of. Okay, anybody can be a part of this site. And you see, I have a profile there. I'm not in prison anymore. I've been out of prison 10 years, but I'm still very connected to everybody in prison. And so I create this tool to try and say, wow, this is how I used to memorialize my journey, where I'd document every book that I read. I'd do a journal regularly that would be totally transparent. And I would invite people in society to follow along, and they could see how hard am I working. So there's July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. I wrote 2 on the 7th. There's my journal from today, right? And I'm describing how this is. I could just pick any of them, and I could show you. I could pick any of them and show you how do they all relate to what I say is important. So I'm always giving the backstory. I'm always describing. I'm always showing how am I working to prepare for success upon release. Well, I think that's something that anybody can do. And I see here that it's kind of hard to see it, so I got to manipulate my screen a little bit. So I can move over to my screen just so that I can show it to you. But this is a typical journal entry for me. This one was from last Wednesday. And I'm describing what I am doing. I am describing how does this relate to my commitment of improving outcomes for all justice-impacted people. And I'm trying to show that pathway for other people. How can I help more people position themselves so that they are not in a situation where when they come out of prison, they don't have the types of resources or support system that I used to really start building my path. It didn't only help me when I got out, it helped me while I was in prison. And anybody can follow along with that. But this isn't about me. It's about you. I'm just trying to be an ambassador of this message in the same way Nelson Mandela's life story was an ambassador for me. He helped me. Viktor Frankl helped me. Frederick Douglass helped me. I didn't know any of those people. Just like some of you I may never know, I won't ever know the vast majority of people that go through our courses. But I'm deeply committed to passing along those lessons. It's why I hold myself accountable, and it's why I show you how do you have to do it. Now, it's not easy. It requires work. It requires work every day. And I can even show you what does that mean. Well, here is like the work that I do to try and hold everything accountable. These are spreadsheets, okay? And these spreadsheets is how I build and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to record the lesson name. I'm going to record the lesson description. I'm going to record where do I keep the lesson on a centralized location. I don't know if you guys, I can show you everything that I am doing because I'm telling you, hey, I still have to hold myself accountable. I still have to document all the different resources and assets that I am building to make it so that I could pass this information along. So it's continuous work. That is how I keep the machine rolling. because then I can go to businesses and say, look at all of the people that are working to prepare for success upon release. I'm asking you, these people in prison, they don't have financial resources. They don't have money. My company is going to donate 10% of all revenues to the nonprofit, that's part of a nonprofit, because there's no money, right? Nobody's going to pay me for it. But I'm always striving. I tell them, hey, if the agency, the prison system will buy a license, I'm going to ask Verizon and McDonald's and Goodwill and other businesses, say, join us. Make this a community effort. But we need your help too. You've got to be holding yourself accountable. And if you do that, we can profile your success, the way that you are preparing for success, to lobby for legislators to provide more incentive to staff members so that they can reward you. And that's what I am doing. That's how I'm holding myself accountable. That's what I'm showing you. And if I can document that story and show how the decisions before led to where we are today, I can be more effective in preparing for success. And I know that you can do the same. So I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank all the platforms that allow us to communicate with hundreds of thousands of justice-impacted people. And I just want you to know that we're very grateful that you are part of our community. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of Prison Professors, and I believe in you. Thank you.